Hello, dear friends. I love Russian scientists because sometimes they discover strange, unusual, avant-garde and surprising things that go unnoticed in the West. But they were also very repressed by the Soviet regime when they discovered things that were too advanced. Opinion piece. Russian scientist discovers secret of immortality. It would consist in having less radioactivity in the body. Radioactive isotope potassium K40 would reduce longevity. The body contains about 245 grams of this isotope. If it had only 7 grams, we could live 2,500 years. Sumerians lived longer because they had less potassium K40. This is contradicted by the Chinese Pitches of Immortality. Ivan Stepanovich Filimonenko also designed a flying saucer. He also designed a cold fusion method to produce clean energy. An elixir of immortality found in a 2,000-year-old Chinese tomb. This mysterious liquid is composed of potassium nitrate and the mineral Alunite. Let's start. A Russian scientist, the talented physicist and inventor Ivan Filimonenko, discovered that the secret of the immortality of the ancients would be related to a smaller amount of the radioactive isotope called potassium K40, found in the human body, mainly in the bones, which would be the main source of radioactivity in our psyche. Bananas, peaches, melons, and other fruits are rich in potassium, but this doesn't mean that they are bad for health in principle. The banana is one of the most radioactive foods known, but it is considered very healthy. This is a common food anywhere on the planet, but very healthy because of its high potassium content. But there are certain algae such as Spirulina and Chlorella, or volcanic ash such as zeolite, that have the power to help cleanse the body of heavy metals. The increase in the concentration of carcinogenic substances in the atmosphere make the soil more radioactive and the food we eat more radioactive. When a fertilizer containing potassium K40 is used, the radioactivity of the soil doubles every year, since the half-life of the potassium K40 isotope lasts several billion years. In 1957, Ivan Filimonenko proposed an environmentally friendly method of clean energy production throughout cold fusion and a unique method of the radiation protection. After Kurchatov's death in 1968, Filimonenko was dismissed from the Red Stat organization, and there was a struggle of political ideas in which no one was interested in ecology. It is always the same with great inventors like Tesla. Now we have what we have. Discovery. Why does the human body no longer live 1,000 years like Old Testament times? According to Moscow academic Ivan Filimonenko, the human lifespan has been shortened by radioactive potassium. In ancient times, food contained 169 times less radioactive potassium than it does today. This trend can be observed when investigating trees. Birch lives up to 250 years and contains 13.8% potassium oxide. Pine 600 years, 6.9%, and fast tree 1,200 years, 3.2%. Using this ratio, it can be calculated that human life would last 12,250 years before the universal flood, according to an excerpt from the book Mysteries and Paradoxes of Time by Vadim Chernobrov. Russian scientist Ivan Stepanovich Filimonenko, who died in 2013, discovered that a human being could live tens of thousands of years. He discovered that a person's lifespan would depend directly on a radioactive isotope called potassium K40. According to the scientist, if the human body contains 245 grams of the potassium K40 isotope, the average person would live 61 years and 7 months. But if it contained 7 grams only, life expectancy would increase to 2,500 years. He also found that the level of the radioactive isotope potassium K40 in the body of a Russian or Kazakh student is 4 times higher than in a French or American student. Artifacts found in the ancient Sumerian Empire suggested to scientists that the potassium K40 content in ancient peoples was 175 times lower than ours, which means that they could have lived an average of 14,000 years, as described on Sumerian tablets studied by historians. Thus, Filimonenko pointed out that life expectancy is linked to the low content of radioactive isotopes in the human body. Half a century ago, Filimonenko developed unique facilities to neutralize radiation, but almost nobody supported this project. With the help of these facilities, it would be possible to clean up radiation on islands and regions to create a paradise where a human being could achieve immortality. Discovery. Ivan Stepanovich Filimonenko, one of the founders of nuclear physics and the developer of the project to neutralize radiation, didn't try to create an elixir of eternal youth. He didn't try to create an elixir of eternal youth, but he came close to it. The discovery made by this outstanding scientist is not only sensational, but at first glance fantastic. Knowing that the main source of radioactive contamination is the potassium isotope K40, Ivan Stepanovich calculated that the duration of our life is inversely proportional to the amount of radioactive elements contained in the organism. It is this isotope that decays in human body and destroys all living cells. However, the body restores them, but the action of the isotope doesn't stop and the cells die again and again. The human genetic program would be designed to replace cells no more than 100 times, and once its limit was exhausted, the body would yield to the radioactive monster of potassium. Thus would come the inevitable old age and death. Therefore, since we get radiation exposure from the environment, the fewer sources of the radiation in the environment, the longer the average life expectancy. Ivan Stepanovich made some calculations and determined that if the human body throughout this life contained 245 grams of potassium K40, the duration of his life would be equal to 61 years and 7 months. If the content were reduced to 7 grams, the average would be 2,531 years. And with 0.7 grams of potassium K40, life expectancy would increase to 25,300 years. Neutralization of radioactivity. Filimonenko created the world's first radioactivity neutralization unit 50 years ago and successfully passed all tests, but as is usually the case, he wasn't allowed to implement this facility. But Ivan Stepanovich dreamed of conducting this experiment in some territory and reducing the content of radioactive substances, if not to the level that was in the land of the ancient Sumerians, at least by half. However, such an experiment would have to be strictly classified, because otherwise thousands and thousands of pilgrims would rush to this territory in the hope of prolonging their lives. According to the scientists, the powerful even then offered to equip it with miraculous facilities in special subway cities for them only, not for the people. The damped isotope. The potassium isotope K40 is used to date the age of rocks and meteorites. Potassium K40 is a radioactive isotope of potassium that has a very long half-life. It constitutes 0.012% of the total amount of potassium found in nature. Radiation is emitted by many objects or elements of our daily life, such as bananas, Brazil nuts, or avocados. But this is a completely natural phenomenon, and we should not worry about it. Potassium K40, for example, is responsible for almost all the radioactivity present in the human body, particularly in the bones. Traces of K40 are found in all potassium, and it is the most common radioisotope in the human body. K40 is a radioactive isotope of potassium that has a very long half-life and undergoes beta decay. From this point of view, also human body can be considered as a source of antimatter. Approximately 89.28% of the time, it decays to calcium-40 with the emission of an electron. The concentration of potassium in the human body is strictly based on the homeostatic principle. Potassium is more or less distributed in the body, especially in the soft tissues, after food intake. 70 kilogram man contains about 126 grams of potassium, 0.18%. Most of that is in the muscles. The daily potassium intake is about 2.5 grams. Therefore, the concentration of potassium K40 is almost stable in all people. Ancient immortals. A distant antiquity, immortality was the exclusive destiny of the gods and people chosen by them. The gods lived on the secluded island of Tilmum, which means the place of life. Anyone living there would become immortal, as the frequency of their body would be synchronized with the energy system of the area. Perhaps in ancient times there really was a place totally protected from radiation. Gilgamesh, the fifth king of Uruk, the capital of the Sumerian state, also dreamed of attaining immortality, so he made a trip to the island of Tilmum. But the gods didn't reveal the secret to him, and he failed, even though his mother was celestial and his father half celestial and half human. He himself was celestial 3/4, but his life was very short. We speak of the eternal young immortals of ancient China, of the immortal inhabitants of Olympus in ancient Greece. The great Rama, who ruled for 10,000 years, is legendary in India. One of the famous Sumerian cuneiform tablets shows the names and periods of the 8 kings. The first of them, called Emmeuluana, was in power for 43,200 years. The last, Ibartut, lived 18,000 years. Antidotes against radiation. Potassium iodide is approved by the Food and Drug Administration and is also available over the counter. There is also seaweed, which can prevent the onset of thyroid cancer as a source of natural iodine. Potassium iodide, which is also known as the thyroid mineral, can greatly help in preventing thyroid cancer as it can maintain the correct balance of iodine in the thyroid. This compound also aids in the healthy functioning of the thyroid and protects against hyper and hypothyroidism. Spirulina. Spirulina is a superfood derived from blue-green algae and has many health benefits. It is commonly used in various health drinks. People consume spirulina for several reasons: to feel more rejuvenated, to strengthen the immune system, or to detoxify the body. Recent studies have indicated that spirulina is also quite useful in anti-radiation therapy, and according to research conducted with children at Chernobyl, spirulina may also help as a medication for radiation poisoning. It can prevent the onset of diseases such as leukemia and help the body fight bacterial and viral infections. When taken orally, it can also help eliminate barium from the body. Chlorella. Freshwater chlorella is the single-celled alga that contains the highest amount of chlorophyll of any known plant. In addition to having several benefits for the body, it's also one of the best known methods for expelling radiation from the body. Chlorella, in particular, has the ability to neutralize radiation and remove toxins such as cadmium, dioxins, and PCBs from the body. Its ability to detoxify uranium, lead, and copper has also made it very valuable, especially considering today's scenario. PCBs, or polychlorinated biphenyls, are a series of organochlorine compounds which constitute a series of 209 congeners, each of which consists of 2 benzene rings and 1 to 10 chlorine atoms. It is to say, they are formed by chlorination of different positions on the biphenyl, 10 in total. Fourth, Shilajit. When it comes to removing radiation from our body, fulvic acid is at the top of the list, as it can break down heavy metals and toxins in the body and even flush it out of the system. It also has no side effects. Rich in fulvic acid is Shilajit from India. Shilajit is a blackish brown powder or exudate from high mountain rocks, usually found in the Himalayas, Karakoram, Nepal, Bhutan, India, Russia, Iran, Mongolia, and in northern Chile, where it is called Andean Shilajit. Although Shilajit is sometimes referred to as mineral tar or resin, it's actually neither of those things. It is a very viscous substance like tar or resin, very dark brown or black in color, but like this, it is readily soluble in water, but indissoluble in ethanol. Shilajit is composed of 60% to 80% of humic substances, such as humic and fulvic acids, together with trace elements such as selenium. Fifth, reishi mushrooms. Reishi mushrooms, or lingzi in Chinese, are known for their amazing health benefits. They can strengthen the immune system and improve blood circulation. An important use of this mushroom is that is very relevant today is that it is known to offer protection against ionizing radiation. Sixth, the fungus of the sun of Brazil, or Agaricus soleil, that is more effective than the reishi. Seventh, magnesium is an important mineral in our bodies and is associated with a wide variety of benefits. One of the main benefits today is that magnesium helps to eliminate heavy metals that stimulate radiation damage in our body. Magnesium oil is one of the best ways it can be incorporated into your body. Magnetic flying saucer. Why was Filimonenko's unique magnetic saucer project downgraded and classified? The Soviet scientific school was one of the most powerful on the planet, so it's not surprising how many discoveries Russian scientists made them. However, some things doesn't fit into this optimistic picture. There are projects that even today's scientists consider brilliant, but they turned out to be wrapped up by the Communist Party elite, and some of them are generally classified. And only in recent years, at least some of the information about them began to appear in the public domain. At one time, the same fate befell one of the developments of the famous Soviet scientist Filimonenko, a real magnetic aircraft. Soviet physicist Ivan Stepanovich Filimonenko was first spoken of in the mid of 1950s, when he was still a young man. He is primarily known as the person who introduced the method of cold nuclear fusion. Another project with which the Filimonenko name is associated shows him as a designer and not just as a nuclear physicist. It is about his magnetic flying saucer. Not much is known about this project because it was classified quite some time ago. Eyewitness evidence of the operation of Filimonenko radio was also preserved. For example, they argued that the mechanism of this motion was based on the repulsion of the Earth's magnetic field, also known are except from the official comments to the development that were personally compiled by the author. It interacts in charged disks with the magnetic field of the Earth, resulting in the Lorentz force, which moves the aircraft. In physics, the Lorentz force is the force exerted by the electromagnetic fields that receives a charged particle or an electric current. Structurally, Filimonenko's magnetic aircraft consisted of two disks rotating in opposite directions and were necessary to balance the interacting system. The device is also supposed to be based on thermal emission mechanism, as well as a shielding circuit of an external magnetic field. The interaction between charged particles and an immense magnetic field provided the impetus to cancel gravity. Silence and repression. This continued until the mid of the year 60s, but after the death of the scientists, work on the project was curtailed and all information was classified. According to rumors, Marshal Zhukov was personally involved in this. After that, nothing was heard about the Unite project for more than 30 years. Only in the late 90s of the last century, the designer was able to return to his magnetism. However, the information about this period of development never appeared, and in 2013, Ivan Stepanovich Filimonenko died. And only a few years ago, the first mentions of this project appeared, as the label of secrecy was removed. At the same time, there are many skeptics, even among scientists, who consider the information about a magnetic plane to be nothing more than a newspaper duck. But it is possible to fully understand this story only after the information about Filimonenko's developments will be published in full. The same like Tesla. Unanswered questions. Russian scientist against the Illuminati. Independent analyst Sergei Albertovich Salch, Doctor of Physical Mathematical Sciences, Professor Secretary of the St. Petersburg part of the Russian Physical Society, shared unique information about the achievements of Soviet science and the world monopoly of knowledge. Why did science in the URSS actively develop for only 15 years? Why was cold nuclear fusion discovered by Dr. Filimonenko not authorized by Korolev, Kurchatov and Gluskov? What was behind the mysterious deaths of these great scientists? Why was the cold nuclear fusion program in the Soviet Union declared pseudo-scientific? What happened to the chief designer of the St. Petersburg company involved in the manufacture of engines based on cold nuclear fusion? What is the Commission of Combating Pseudoscience really about? Why are the Japanese unable to apply alternative technology in their industry? What is the truth uncovered by Japan's former Minister of Economics, Heiichi Takenaka? What is behind the Fukushima tragedy? Is there a geophysical weapon? We have no answers to these questions at this moment. Elixir of Immortality. An elixir of immortality was discovered in a 2,000-year-old Chinese tomb. Archaeologists initially thought it was wine made from rice and sorghum grains, but it was a drink recorded in Taoist texts. Obviously, an elixir of immortality in a tomb meant that it had not worked. The Chinese people honored longevity more than any other nation in the world, a concept that led them to practices of incantation, prayers, summoning of spirits, repression of demons and wild beasts, spells based on constellation or alchemy, but the purpose of which was to elaborate the elixir of immortality. A group of archaeologists who discovered a drink that was said to provide eternal life have just testified to this. It was found in a 2,000-year-old bronze vessel that was buried in an ancient tomb in the city of Luoyang in central China, where excavation work was being carried out. The elixir is made up of 3.5 or 3.5 liters, and at first it was thought to be some kind of liqueur, as it smelled of alcohol. Now, laboratory tests have revealed that this mysterious liquid is composed mainly of potassium nitrate and alunite, the main ingredients of an elixir of immortality described in Taoist texts. Alunite is a mineral the sulfate class. Chemically, it's a hydrated sulfate of aluminium and potassium, which usually carries impurities, giving it iron and sodium tones. According to the Xinhua News Agency, the magic elixir was found in a tomb belonging to a nobleman of the Western Han dynasty 202 before Christ to 8 after Christ. The family placed such high value on the elixir that they considered it worthy of sharing their final resting place. At that site, painted earthenware vessels, material made of jade and bronze, a goose-shaped lamp, and bronze pot containing an intriguing yellowish liquid were also discovered. The most popular example of this Chinese obsession with immortality was the 2 trips of the court sorcerer Xu Fu in search of the elixir during the Qing dynasty. However, this is the first time an intact sample of the liquid has been discovered. The liquid, of great value for the study of ancient Chinese thoughts of the dream of immortality and the evolution of Chinese civilization, explained Shi Yathen, director of the Luoyang Institute of Cultural Relics and Archaeology. The ancient tomb covers more than 200 square meters, and in addition to the elixir, its excavators have uncovered other bronze utensils and painted earthenware vessels. The Pitches of Immortality. The pitch evokes the idea of immortality in Chinese culture despite being rich in potassium. Legend has it that a powerful goddess known as Queen Mother of the West had a garden in which she cultivated peach trees, from which every 3,000 years peaches sprouted that gave the quality of living forever to those who ate them, according to Ruth Spinoza. In some cultures, the peach symbolizes a long life expectancy. In China, the peach is the symbol of immortality and long life expectancy. It is also attributed with properties to increase mental and physical well-being, which is why it is a tradition to have peach blossoms in the home. Peaches, continually present in Chinese poetry and art, evoke in China the idea of immortality, and are therefore a favorite motif in paintings and handicrafts given as birthday gifts. That is because legend states that the Queen Mother of the West, one of the most powerful deities since the Han dynasty, had a garden where the peaches of immortality that bore fruit once every 3,000 years, and whoever ate of them would attain immortality. Peach wood has also the preferred wood for making children's beds, as it was considered that it would provide a happy life. Peach wood was generally considered to ward off evil spirits. During the Zhou dynasty, there was already a custom that when the king, nobles, or high officials visited their domains, they were preceded by a group of sorcerers and soothsayers armed with peachwood and reeds to protect them from evil spirits. Used by both Buddhist and Taoist, peachwood was often the only defense people had against evil spirits. The ubiquitous gatekeepers that cannot be missing in any home represent in some region 2 brothers, Senshu and Ulu, who, according to legends, lived in ancient times on Mount Tusho under a peach tree, and were said to have power of evil spirits, which they hunted and drove away tigers. The action of the peach is given to it by being a symbol of the vernal sun, under whose influence it is full of flowers before a single leaf unfolds from its twigs. It has therefore more vitality than the other trees. Because of this vitality, it drives away spirits and is related to immortality. The vitality of the peach related to driving away devils and the power to confer immortality, in its broadest sense, involved not only the individual but his lineage, which made the peach a symbol also of reproduction. The peach is the vitality of spring, and in fact in China the month of March is the month of the peach, and the spring is evoked by the peach. The term that best fits the two concepts of the peach present in the Chinese mentality is the festival called Pataui, or Festival of the Flat Peaches, called Paraguayas in Spanish American. A festival celebrated on the third day of the third lunar month in honor of the Queen Mother of the West. During it, young people gathered in the forest or the banks of rivers and began singing songs to get to know each other, then moving on to greater intimacy, usually ending in great ritual orgies that related to the fertility of the earth with that of women. The fountain of peach trees also serves in Chinese to designate a paradise or a utopia. This originated in a story of the writer Tao Qian from the 4th century after Christ, called precisely the story of the fountain of peach trees, the Spanish version of which can be read in the book Shangri-La. It tells of travelers arriving at a place where absolute happiness reigns. In his work, cited above, Eberbank thinks that it is already a Chinese tradition that places paradise in the lands of the ancestors of the Zhuang or Yao minority. Excuse me. I am finishing. The religious role of the peach is evidenced in several ways throughout Chinese history. In temples, it is customary to offer Buddha and the various gods peaches, and it is not uncommon to find in Chinese homes a statue of Shou, the god of longevity, carrying in his hand one of the famous pink peaches from the legend of Queen Mother of the West. The peach tree is a symbol of power in China. Ancient warriors made their weapons from its wood, as it is said to ward off evil, and with the petals of its flower, Taoist magic makes a very effective love potion. Empress Cixi had a peach-shaped lake built in the Summer Palace in Beijing, Kuning Lake, which is located next to the Hill of Longevity. Every day the Empress would walk along the 750-meter corridor that runs along the shore of the lake to drink tea. Sometimes peach blossoms tea in the marble and wooden boat that she herself ordered to be built for this purpose. Such is the importance of the peach in China that underage children often have their hair cut in the shape of a peach, seeking the protection and longevity provided by the peaches from Shi Wangmu's orchard. This is the traditional China that I like, and not the one of the Communist Party. Thanks a lot, dear friends.